Guys, Chip here with Main Street Mower. We're gonna be doing a Clash of the Titans kind of battle today. Behind me is a Toro 4000 series with the 31 horse Cowie and the 60-inch deck. And on my other side is the Hustler X1 with the EFI 28 horsepower 60-inch deck. Guys, we've been wanting to do a Hustler versus video for a long time. A lot of you requested it. We finally got our hands on a Hustler X1. Someone traded in. It has only 111 hours on it, so it's basically brand new. And we're gonna be testing it in all kinds of scenarios today. I'm gonna be putting them on the most intense slope you've ever seen behind you. We're gonna be seeing who handles better on slope. We're gonna be mowing very, very thick grass. We're gonna be mowing roadside type grass. We're gonna be mowing beautiful lawns. We're gonna see which ones disperse the grass the best, which one has the best finish cut, which one feels the best and rides the best and most comfortable. We're gonna be comparing these two machines today. They're equal in price and they're very equal on paper. If you look at a lot of the stats are almost identical on most of these things, but we wanna see how does it actually perform in the field. So today we are doing field testing with the Hustler versus Toro. Stay tuned, check it out, come on. I just want to have an initial disclaimer that behind me is the 2021 model. They've updated it since then. And so I'll be reading off some of the older stats and some of the updates they've done to the newer stats. But from what I've heard and understand, the machine is generally very, very similar. There are different hydraulics on the new machine. The new deck has a little thicker features, but we'll go over some of those differences. I brought out some stat sheets so I could get my stats correct and not have to apologize later in the comments. I want to go over a couple things that make these things very similar and some differences, some things that are maybe pluses and some things that are very negatives. First of all, my just personal opinion, obviously I'm a Toro dealer, but I've always admired Hustler. They are a great brand. I think they're very well built. I have some respect for Hustler and I know that they are a commercial product. And I think these machines are very similar in a lot of ways, and I'm excited to actually put them in the field today and see how they perform and which one performs better. Well, behind me, they both have the same size front wheels. Easy. The Toro has a 10-gallon gas tank. The Hustler has a 12-gallon fuel tank. The Toro has a single fuel tank located under the seat, which does give it a lower center of gravity. And the Hustler has two kind of saddlebag, what I like to call them, two separate tanks with a fuel switch so you can go from left to right side tank. But it does have 2 gallons more fuel on the Hustler. Transmissions are different. This has 5400 hydro gears, and this one has a combination of Parker and integrated pump, and they're smaller, they're 12 cc versus these that are a 16 cc. The new Hustlers, the 2023s, have the 4400s, which compared to a lot of the other models of the 4000, they have the same transmission. This particular one has 5400s, but a lot of them have 4400s. The Toro has a 7-gauge deck, top, bottom, side, 7-gauge, and has some reinforcement bull nose. It's a very, very heavy-duty, robust deck. I have very rarely seen any holes ever blown through these decks, and if they do, they're over 5,000 hours. This model Hustler deck has 10-gauge on top, 7 on sides, with 7 reinforcing around spindles in certain areas. The new decks are 7 all around, so that's very similar across the two if you're buying a 2023 Hustler. The Hustler has cast iron spindles with steel shafts and roller bearings, and the Toro has sealed bearings on aluminum spindles. That might not matter to some of you, but Toro had cast iron spindles for a long time and they switched to the aluminum because they dissipate heat better and bearings last longer and they're a little less expensive to replace, is what they've realized if you have to replace them. And they're maintenance free, which is great. Blade tip speed, it's 18,800 versus 18,500. Very small difference there, but there is a small difference. Toro's warranty, 5-year, 1,250 hours, and the first 2 years of that were unlimited. The Hustler also had 2 years unlimited, but on this 2021 model, they only warranted it for 5 years or 500 hours. Now the 2023 model has 5 years, 1,200 hours. So they made the warranty almost the same as the 4000 as well. The 4000 has 50 more hours. Weight, the Toro is 200 pounds lighter than the Hustler, but it has the same thickness deck or thicker. So it's lighter in certain ways. I don't know where exactly, but it's lighter, which is nice if you're thinking about ruts. That's all you really need to know. The most important stuff is how they're gonna mow. I know that was the boring section, but maybe some of you guys are eating that up. You are welcome to look them up. Toro has their stats on their website. Hustler has their stats on their website. The machines on paper are very, very similar. Let's see how they actually perform. The first test we're gonna do today is a slope test. Behind me is an overpass next to a retention pond. This is all the no-nos that Toro probably hates that I'm even gonna drive drive a mower over there, but we're gonna try it. We're gonna get up on the highest possible slope we can, see how it's working, see how I can kind of finagle it, and we'll do that with both machines and see how they hold the slope. Guys, this test is not necessarily to test how well they cut, because the grass on this slope is terrible. It's all rutted up. There's been tractors mowing this slope for a while, so it's gonna beat me to death. So I'm not even gonna turn the blades on. I'm just gonna have the blades all the way up so I don't dig into the surface, and just see how well it holds the hill. I'm gonna call this the Billy Goat test. How high can I mow in line without it sliding back down? Both have turf tires on them. They don't have any necessarily crazy aggressive tires on them. The Toro tires are considered turf tires, and these are also called Grass Masters. They look like they might have a slightly more aggressive tread. They're both aired up the way they should be. They both have the same front wheels. So it's gonna be a really interesting test. Check this out, we'll see how they do. Full throttle, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna get the Toro. That's scary, bro. That is steep. We'll do one more like that. Let me try again. Should I try to go straight up it? Guys, it's always important to have a mower that can make it back to the truck fast, especially with approaching storm. So we're gonna do a quick speed test next to the lake here and just see how fast these mowers go in a straight line, wide open throttle, so you guys can see how the deck is working and how everything is floating, how the seat works, how comfortable it is at speed on a rough terrain. So here is the speed test. Hey guys, we found a beautiful house. Behind me is a house that we do not know the owner, but we asked for permission if we could cut their lawn. It just looked a juicy, thick Bahia yard. And this is a perfect test site for these mowers. This is the type of property you might be doing with these types of lawn mowers. So guys, this grass has been laid pretty fresh. It's probably the second cut or third cut. We're not gonna try to scalp it or cut too low. We're gonna cut it at 3.5. And this grass is easily 10 inches, so cutting in a significant portion of this grass. We're just gonna watch how these mowers do. How well does it kick grass out? Does it leave a lot behind? There's a lot of flags in the yard that I wanna be really careful of. So if you notice, I'm not gonna like try to trim super duper close. I don't have a string trimmer with me. So don't judge my mowing technique. There is a landscaper coming after us to kind of follow up and finish all this stuff, but we're just gonna be mowing the bulk of it. I've just put the Toro out of the frame. I'm gonna do this side with the Hustler first. First thing I gotta do is set it to 3.5. I noticed right away the holes are a little more confusing and the deck is heavier than the Toro. But we're at 3.5. We're gonna cut this side, see how the Hustler does first. Check it out. Okay, so we just got done cutting. The mower cut good. There's not a ton of stragglers. I see it's cutting nice, you know. It seems like it's cutting lower than I expected. I'm gonna see how the Toro does at 4 inches, see how low it looks. I didn't necessarily like how it clumped, but I don't know if the Toro will clump different. And it left a lot of grass out. We'll see if it shoots it out further with the Toro or not. It is a technical yard because there's so many flags and I didn't want to mess up any of this lady's flags. This house is, like I said, brand new. As far as the mower it felt okay. It's a bumpy yard. It's a fresh yard, fresh sod. There's a lot of like change in the turf. It's not necessarily smoothed out yet and they could probably use some dirt filler and all that kind of stuff. But did it make tall grass short? Absolutely. And here's some results. It looks good. You know, I was kind of having to drive all over the place to get certain things, so it's not striped or necessarily any particular beautiful way cut. You know, I'm not a professional landscaper by any means. You guys know how to cut grass better than I do. But how does the lawn feel, or how does the mower feel when I'm cutting the lawn? It feels good. It never bogged down. It felt powerful. And this was some thick grass. It's not super dense, but it's tall grass. But it did a good job. It left some long chunks. I was noticing it didn't mince it up super well. I mean, it was kind of cutting it and leaving it very long. And so this will have a hard time falling through and looking prettier later. It won't necessarily be a bad thing. It's not thick enough that it's gonna cause the grass to get burned underneath, but I would like to see more of a mincing up of this grass. And then obviously a mulch kit would solve that on the Hustler. And we'll see if the Toro does anything different. But that was something I was noticing where I was discharging. You can come over so you see a bigger pile. The majority of the grass clippings were just very long, which, you know, maybe I'm being picky. I don't know how other mowers will do this. This grass is like unusually unispecies and long, but I'd be curious to see how the other ones do. Is it passable? Absolutely, it looks good, cut good. But yeah, the yard looks fine, looks good. I'm happy with how it cut. Moving on to the Toro, let's try it. I know I'm not done yet. This thing kicks the grass out so far, it's like hard to keep it out of the beds. You can tell it kicks the grass way different. It throws it. But I'm trying to kind of finagle, I don't want to fill her beds full of grass clippings. So if you see me taking a weird angle, that's what's going on. I'm trying not to just completely dump grass up in her stuff. Okay. So for some reason, it definitely felt like it cut nicer. It looks nicer. Let's see how it did. I feel like the clippings are not much smaller, but I think it does a better job of spreading them. It definitely throws them further, and so it thins them out better. There's a couple areas where I had to like aim towards the same spot twice. You'll see some doubling up, but it doesn't seem as bad as the Hustler. I mean, this was a lot of grass. This grass was really tall, but it's definitely minced up a little nicer. Smaller pieces, I would say they're all in the 2 to 3 inch instead of the 5 to 8 inch long pieces, which might not mean a lot to some of you guys, but when you try to have a big clump of that, it's gonna fall through and it's gonna do a better job of blending in. If you have a big pile of grass on top of your lawn, it'll basically bake your lawn. It'll close this in and it'll have a big dead spot underneath it. And so the further you can spread it out, the thinner it can be distributed, the better. It's gonna fall down past your blades. It's not gonna affect your lawn. In the search of finding the most intense environments to test these mowers in, we did slopes, we did a beautiful lawn. We have come back to our tried and true test facility where there is some absolutely gnarly knee-high grass right now. We're gonna put these mowers in here. I don't expect either of them to cut well on the first pass. I'm just literally running these to hear how it does in thick grass. How is the engine performing? Is it leaving a ton of striping behind? Is it leaving a lot of stragglers standing up? How does it kick grass out? And then we're gonna do some walk-arounds and talk about the specifics of each mower, because there's some great features on both machines that I'm really impressed with, but we'll talk about both of those. Stay tuned, let's cut some grass, just watch, enjoy. Let me hypnotize you with some tall grass becoming wee little grass. Check it. Guys, we just did a series of tests. Both mowers performed amazingly. I want your help. Who won today? You know, I would love to see it in the comments. Who do you think won? Was it the Hustler? Was it the Toro? Who cut the best? Who handled the slope the best? Which one, in your guys' opinion, looked the best? I could tell you only what I felt and what it felt like to mow with one. While mowing with them, it felt like the Toro handled everything slightly better. I'm not saying incredibly better, but slightly better. The Hustler did do really well. The transmissions feel super duper smooth on these things. I am so impressed with how smooth the transmissions feel. And this isn't even the hyperdrive. I don't exactly know what their hydraulic combination is here, but they feel really great. They're quiet, they're smooth. Toro's, the transmissions are a little louder, but I know they're bigger and heavier duty. There's more fluid being exchanged. I've never felt them weak. I never felt anything like that. The sound and feel of the Hustler's transmission was smoother. But did it translate into how it operated or anything like that? I don't think so. I actually felt like I was maybe twisting the grass more with the Hustler. On that nice lawn, I had multiple areas where I was rutting up the yard, and I think it was because of how unaware of the wheel movement I was. Because of the sound and because of the feel, it was a little bit smoother, and so I think I was twisting a little more than on the Toro. As far as cut quality goes, the Toro cut better. Like when I cut that lady's front yard, I cut one half with this mower, I cut one half with this mower, and after looking at them, I actually felt kind of guilty or bad about the one side that I cut with the Hustler. The Hustler made the tall grass short. It just did not disperse the grass very well. It left a lot of clumps. It did not stripe at all. Kind of left an erratic pattern with the grass. So I actually ended up going back and recutting it all with the Toro, and it looked nicer, and I left it like that. You know, like I said, this mower does cut really well, and you can see in this condition, it didn't have any problem with bogging or really heavy grass. I'm super impressed with its ability to cut volume, and it did a great job. But as far as how is the finished product, it is so hard to beat a Toro, and this particular 4000 just cuts so beautifully. I'm super impressed with it. As far as the slopes go, I feel like they both performed the same. To me, it didn't feel very different. The Toro, I maybe had slight more comfort or more confidence, I should say. Might just because I'm more familiar with the machine and was more aware of the transmissions, like I was saying earlier with how I was twisting the grass. Same on that hill. I could hear the transmissions more, I could feel them more, they were more responsive. You're more aware of them, you're more attuned to them. These ones feel smoother and quieter, but I feel a little bit disconnected, almost how it feels when you drive an electric mower. There's a little disconnect with the transmissions. I kind of feel similar with these. As far as the two engines went, both performed great. This one's EFI, you don't have to choke it, that's a convenient feature. You do have to choke the carbureted, but this one did feel more powerful, and it should. It's 31 horse versus 29.5 horse. How did the deck sound? Quiet. They both sounded quiet. Operating position was nice on both. Both the seats, I think, are probably made by the same manufacturer. They both have the same dial. I had my weight on both of them. They're both extremely comfortable. The Toro does come with a MyRide option. Obviously, you're gonna pay more for that, $800 to $900 more. But for what you're getting on these two machines, they're very similar. There are a couple other features I'd like to talk about. Creature comforts on both of them. The Toro has some rubber mats on the floor. You know, they might look cheesy to you, but you know, I have my knee injury, and climbing it on and off of these machines, especially when they're wet, makes me a little nervous. There's a nice cleat over here. I can step on it. It's very grippy. And then I have a rubber pad so my feet don't slip. I feel a lot more secure. There's also a step through plate here, so you could also step through the middle. I'm impressed with the Hustler's big front wheel. It's not spinning very well, but it looks beefy. Like that the Toro's transmissions are held with a basket underneath. Basically not a basket, but there's a large bracket underneath the transmissions that hold all of that stuff together. Toro's kind of famous for having some really rigid framework around their transmissions, and that is so helpful because if you're bouncing around in terrain like this all day, you'll start to see mowers that the wheels start to camber out. I used to see it a ton on Gravely's. It's easy to see on a lot of machines where the frame starts to tweak and bend, and that never happens with the Toro because they have a really strong infrastructure between the transmissions, between their parts of the frame. The Hustler does not have that on this model. Something I don't like about the Hustler is that you can't open your deck without removing a screw. Maybe you can leave that out, but I imagine this plate rattles around an awful lot because they wouldn't put that screw in there if they didn't. So you can't access your panels very easily. You could take your covers off, just feels like I'm gonna hurt my finger or something. This is where everything's situated. They have a much smaller spindle housing than the Toro spindles. How do they hold up? I don't really know. I'm not a Hustler dealer. I'm not seeing that kind of warranty data, but I know that the Toro ones last a really long time, and I'm always impressed with their build quality. Something I like about the Toro is it's very easy to access. You know, I'm in the service department. I gotta work on these things. I'm training people to work on them. I can get to my deck super easy. My panel is plastic, it clips in, it's robust, it doesn't fall off, and I can lift my deck access panel here really simply. All this stuff's very easy to get to, so it allows my service team to get stuff done very quickly on it. There's a lot of more grease fittings on this than on this, which some people like grease fittings. I used to think they were better, but if you don't grease them, they're worse, so I don't know. They're about the same to me. The way the deck is hung on the Hustler looks really rigid and beast. There's some cast iron pieces, but when it comes down to the actual holding components, they're built very, very similar. I haven't had very much issues at all with how the decks on the Toros are held. There are rods versus chains. There's benefits to both. These rods can undulate and move. The chains can undulate and move. On a slope, some people say that the chains might droop while the rods will stay true to the hip slope. But they also have some other bracketry that prevent that droop on the 4000 series, as they say. There's tapered bearings in here. There's sealed, non-tapered roller bearings in there. The Hustler also has no hydro reservoir, which is an interesting feature or lack of feature. They don't have anywhere to visually see your hydraulic fluid. So at glance, you can always tell if your Toro has transmission fluid, but on your Hustler, you have to train your guys to take off that dipstick, check it, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to make sure you're maintaining your maintenance on this machine. The rear bumper guards of both machines are pretty robust. They protect the engine really well. There's lots of tie-down points on both these machines, lots of places you can ratchet strap them down to your trailer. Makes it very convenient. One thing I really do appreciate about the Hustler is this fuel gauge. It does have 2 fuel tanks and it has 2 fuel gauges right up here, easy side of view. The Toro's fuel gauge is down low, kind of snuck down here. It's on top of the tank. It's very simple design. It's probably never gonna break or have any problems, but you gotta get used to kind of looking down. As you're sitting, you look down here. I don't know which one lasts longer or if this one has more issues, but it is nice. I think that's a nice feature that I did appreciate. The other thing is that the Hustler, they all have automatic parking gauge, and that's pretty cool. So when you pull that out, it automatically engages your park, so you don't have to pull your parking brake up. On the Toro, the 4000 series, they changed the brake onto the left side. It's a very long pole, but it's very simple. It's not like that. It's super complicated, but it's something to mention. We also have 2 USB charging ports, which I don't know who's really using those, but they have them on the 4000. And on the new Hustler style X1, they also have 2 USB charging ports. Some minor feature differences here, guys. Like I said, on paper, they're very similar machines, but in practicality, they operate a lot different. So it comes down to, is quality cut really important to you? And do you have a great Toro dealer in town or a great Hustler dealer in town? I like both. I'm impressed with the Hustler, did good. The hydraulics are smooth, the deck's quiet, all those things. I really like that. Its cut quality was not up to the par that I believe the Toro was. And I would love to hear your guys' comments. If you watch the videos, you saw it on the slope, you saw it on the nice lawn, you saw it in this field, which one cut better? Guys, you can debate. I would love to hear which one you guys think did better. Guys, at the end of the day, the reason we have this Hustler is because we had a customer in one of our stores who bought this, had it for 2 years, only put 100 hours on it, and was unhappy with how it cut. And we let her take home the 4000 series, and it blew her mind, and she literally bought this exact mower. They had this, they didn't like it, they traded it in, and they bought this, and they love it. To trade in a mower with only 111 hours on it is kind of enough of a story that I don't need to say much more. You can tell the difference when you mow with these 2 machines. You can feel the difference when you mow with these 2 machines. Hustler's a great brand. I don't knock anyone who buys a Hustler. I think they do a good job. If you were to use this and then use this, you're pretty much gonna always want to stick with this one. The Toro feels better, it looks better, it runs better, it cuts better. I really enjoyed it. Go out there and demo a new 4000 series. It'll blow your stinking mind. Guys, thank you for watching and subscribing. Please put your bell on so you can catch your next video. What other mower would you like to see us compare? Guys, if you like that video, we have another one just like it where we compare the 4000 with MyRide versus the Skag Cheetah with the V-Ride system. It's gonna be right here. We also have a Toro Titan versus the Bad Boy. It's gonna be right over here. Guys, we also do comparison videos with Stihl versus all the other major handheld brand. We love making videos for you to help you make educated decisions, not to buy equipment that you don't need, but to buy the right equipment to get the job done right the first time. So check out our channel, subscribe, and learn something. We appreciate y'all. See ya.